guys, so look, I know I say this a lot, I know I do, but I genuinely think this might be one of my new favorite card tricks that I've created recently, and I really do hope that you guys agree. I think this is something really, really awesome. So here's the performance for this trick. So something new here, I have 2 decks of cards, and I would actually allow the spectator to choose either of these decks to use. So let's say they prefer to use this one, so I tell them, okay, so we'll put this one over here for now. We'll get back to it later. But for now, we're gonna take this deck, give it a quick shuffle, and I need this deck to be cut into about 3 piles. So can you cut about 1/3 of the cards for me? Let's say they cut there, and I say, okay, we'll see 2 more piles here. So can you go ahead and cut about another 1/3, let's say there, and then the last 1/3, let's say they cut about here, and then we'll take the remaining cards and we'll just discard them over here. So we're gonna take these 3 piles, and I would ask the spectator to help me with this. Can you just arrange these 3 piles so they're sort of in a triangle formation? So I'll do this sort of from the camera's perspective here so you can see. They can take any of these piles and just kind of move them so that we have a triangle shape here on the table made with these 3 piles, okay? So we're gonna get back to these piles a little bit later, but for now, we're gonna take the deck that you chose. And since you chose this deck, we're gonna actually have this deck be the card, or have this deck be the deck where you select a card out of. So what I'm gonna do here is allow you to select a card in a way so that it will be very, very easy for you to see that card. So I'm just gonna make sure that the cards are sticking out here so that you can see them. So just like this, hopefully you guys can see those cards. I'm gonna riffle through the corners so you can see them all going by, right? Whenever you'd like, I'm gonna have you call out stop, okay? You can do it whenever you want, and I'll turn my head so I'm not even looking at the cards, just in case you think I'm looking or something. So I'll turn my head, and whenever you're ready, go ahead and say, let's say they say stop right over here, okay? So this card, I really hope that you guys can see it. And my head is turned, so I genuinely don't know what this card is, but hopefully you guys can remember that card the best that you can. And can you actually go ahead and help me, spectator? Can you take about half the cards here and just shuffle them up as much as you'd like? Kind of like this, it doesn't really matter, but you can just kind of throw them on the table. When we're done, we'll just kind of collect everything together. So we'll just do that. How about that? That seems good to me. So, okay. Now, I'm gonna hopefully start to make sense out of all of this. Why do we have a triangle? Why do we have 2 decks? So, have you ever heard of the word triangulate? It's a word that's used very often when we're talking about location, and specifically like location, maybe using satellites in space. Have you ever heard of like, satellites sort of triangulating a position on Earth using like latitude and longitude? You can sort of hone in on a specific position. That's kind of the idea that I want to use with these cards over here, because you cut to 3 random positions in this deck, correct? You did that completely by yourself. What if we treated these 3 points sort of as coordinates in a deck of cards? And we're gonna basically use these 3 points to triangulate a position, and then hopefully that will lead us to finding your card. So hopefully this is making some sense now. Can you go ahead and flip over the top 3 cards of each of the 3 piles here that you cut to? So let's see, we have 10, we have an 8, and we have a 7. So these are our 3 coordinates that we are going to be using here. So if we sort of combine these together, if we triangulate this position, if we add up all the numbers, we get 8 plus 7 is 15, plus 10 is 25. Guys, if this deck, if we counted 25 cards down and we found your card, that would mean that we have successfully triangulated the position of your card. And I think that would be a pretty awesome trick. So let's see what happens here. If we count 25, I would actually hand the deck over to the spectator. I wouldn't even want to touch this at all. My hands would be completely away from everything from now on. But let's see what happens when we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and here is the 25th card. Look, if it had been 26, it would have been the 4 of clubs, 24, 5 of spades, but 25 from these 3 positions that we have triangulated. Tell me, was your card the 9 of clubs? Hopefully, it was. But yeah, guys, so that's the trick. As you can see, it's just awesome. I love this trick, and I cannot wait to show you how it works. So if you enjoyed this, please be sure to stick around for the tutorial. All right, guys, so here's the tutorial for Triangulate. This is one of my new original creations. I've basically taken two tricks that I had previously known and I combined them together to create this new trick, and I really like the result. I'm very happy with it. I basically took a force that I learned from Sankey, and the force is you force these 3 cards onto the spectator when they cut 3 piles. And then the second trick that I got inspiration from is the control that basically is a Pharaoh shuffle control that allows you to control a card to any position that you wish in the center of the pack. So for this trick, you're gonna need 2 decks, and one of the decks is going to be set up with 3 force cards. However, the other deck is completely impromptu, and you will need 52 cards in the other deck that you're going to be having the selection come out of. That is very important. But the other deck doesn't really matter as long as you have 3 force cards. These cards can really be up to you. They can be whatever values you wish. I just did these 3 because they add up to 25, and 25 is a very simple number for me to control using that Pharaoh shuffle control. So what I do with these 3 cards is I'm going to take 2 of them and place them on top of the deck, and then I'm going to take the other one and place it on the bottom of the deck, and that's the setup for your forcing deck over here. And then the other deck, like I said, is completely impromptu, so you don't need to do anything with that, but this is your starting position. So you come out with this, and you have the spectator decide which deck they would like to use. Whichever one they point to, it's a completely free choice. You're just going to change your presentation based on what they say. So if they decide on this deck over here, the orange deck, you tell them that, okay, so take this deck and shuffle it, and we'll have you select a card out of that a little bit later in the trick. But if they choose this deck, then you say, okay, we'll go ahead and use this deck, and we'll cut some piles with this deck over here. So as you can see, whichever deck they choose, it doesn't matter because you're going to be using both of them, but it just makes it sort of seem like they have a free choice in the beginning of this trick. So let's say they choose this one here, so just hand it over to them, have them shuffle it, and then you're gonna take this deck, the other deck. This is if they choose this deck or not. It doesn't really matter what they say, but you're going to be basically switching around the top 2 cards and the bottom card with an overhand shuffle. I like to begin by taking 2 cards singly with my thumb. So I pull off 1 and then 2, and then I'm gonna shuffle everything on top, but leave that bottom card to be the last card shuffled. So I do 1, 2, and then I start shuffling little blocks like this until I get to the end, and then I start doing 1 by 1 so that I can get that last card singly on top of the deck. So now I have that 10 on top, and then my 8 and 7 should be on the bottom. Once I do that 1 overhand shuffle, I'm gonna ask the spectator to cut roughly a third of the deck. So let's say they cut about here. What this will do is it will force one of the cards already. So there you go, you have 1 card ready to go. You're gonna do another overhand shuffle, but you're gonna use your fingers here to retain the bottom card. So you're gonna peel off a block, but hold down your fingers here to apply pressure so that that card will stick to the bottom. And then you're going to be shuffling so that this last card here, the 7 of diamonds, will be the last card shuffled on top. Just like this. So you 1 by 1 until you get there. And now you have the spectator cut off another third of the pack like this. This will force another card on the spectator. And now all you have to do is simply control the bottom card to the top. So you just shuffle until you get this card to the top like this. Shuffle 1 by 1 until you get that bottom card to the top right here. And now you have the spectator cut off another third of the pack, or like a small pile at this point. And then you say, we're gonna take the remaining cards and discard them, but now you're gonna arrange these 3 piles in a triangle formation here, and it doesn't really matter which pile goes where because you're just gonna be doing addition with these piles, and it really doesn't matter, but there you go. You already have those 3 cards forced on the spectator. So this is actually a really nice force that I learned many years ago from Sankey. He made a trick out of this force using the 4 aces, where you have the spectator cut to any 4 places, and then they've actually found the 4 aces by themselves. But I used it here in this trick to find 3 random cards, but you're still forcing cards on the spectator. So I'll leave these face up for the rest of the trick because we already know what these are. But now you're gonna start using the other deck, and this is the Pharaoh shuffle control. So it's a completely impromptu thing. You can completely shuffle the deck beforehand, but all you wanna do is you wanna do a perfect Pharaoh shuffle. Sounds simple, right? Well, it's not very simple, and it does take practice. So I'll link a video up here of a great tutorial by 52 cards on how to do the Pharaoh shuffle. If you guys do not know how to do the Pharaoh shuffle, or if you guys are struggling, I don't really have many tips for the Pharaoh shuffle. I actually kind of do it incorrectly. than a lot of people teach. But what you need to do is you do need to get a perfect Pharaoh shuffle so that you can actually do this control correctly. And once you have a perfect Pharaoh shuffle, it should be a perfect in Pharaoh, which means that the second card of the deck is out jogged and the first card of the deck is in jogged, like this. So once I'm in this position, this is a perfect Pharaoh position that I'm in. What I'm gonna do is have the spectator select a card by riffling my finger, having them say stop. When they say stop, let's say the 5 of hearts is their card. I'm gonna insert my pinky right where they say stop and then continue to riffle the cards. So now I'm essentially holding a break right where that 5 of hearts is. Now all I'm gonna do is I'm going to strip out all of the out-jogged cards and then put them on top of the deck. So I'm gonna strip out all the out-jogged cards here. They're just gonna pivot along my finger just like this. Strip these out and place them on top of the deck, but I'm gonna maintain my pinky break like this. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna pick up everything from the break and I'm actually gonna gesture over to the spectator, asking them to help me. Say, can you help me? As I ask them to help me, I'm actually gonna be pushing off the top card and catching a pinky break. This top card is a completely random card, by the way. This card is meaningless. The only reason why I'm doing this is so that I can actually add this card when I come back and then gesture again. I'm basically gonna be stealing this card on the bottom of my right hand packet like this. I'm gonna be taking it away using my thumb. I'm just gonna pick it up and I'll gesture again, say, can you actually take about half the cards and shuffle them? And I'm gonna hand the rest of the pile in my left hand to the spectator to shuffle. These cards are completely meaningless. They can be completely mixed up. All I wanna do is take the rest of the cards that I was holding onto in my right hand and just simply place them on the table. If you want, you can do a false shuffle with these in your hand. I believe in the performance, I just did a false shuffle where it looked like I was doing this kind of mixing up thing, but I wasn't actually doing anything. So you can just set the cards down and then you can have the cards be returned to you by the spectator and just kind of drop everything on top. But if you do that entire process correctly, whichever card they peeked at, which in this case was the 5 of hearts, should now be located at the 25th position. It's just a self-working automatic thing if you follow those instructions. So now here comes the end of the trick and you bring up the whole triangulate presentation where you say we're gonna treat these 3 piles here as coordinates to hone in on a specific position in the deck of cards. And then you have the spectator do everything at this point. You do not want to touch the cards for the rest of the trick. Once that card has been controlled and this deck gets put on the table, your hands leave everything behind. You do not need to touch anything for the rest of this trick. You have the spectator flip over the piles, you add them up, and you have them count 25. So remember, 5 of hearts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 5 of hearts. It works every single time, as long as you follow my instructions, of course. But yeah, that's the trick. So as you can see, it's a little tricky to get down because there are some things to remember. But once you guys get the hang of it, it is actually pretty simple, honestly, in method. Of course, the perfect Pharaoh shuffle is something that is super, super tricky, and I'm not downplaying that at all. I do understand how hard that is. So if you guys are not comfortable with that, just please practice the Pharaoh shuffle as much as you can. It does usually take me a few tries when I'm doing a real live performance. I don't actually hit it perfect every single time. Don't be concerned if you're not too good at it. Practice does make perfect. So just keep at it and you'll get there one day. But yeah, that's the trick, guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed this card trick called Triangulate, and I really hope that you guys try it out, and see you guys next time. Bye.